Ooby-Doo, it's everyone's favorite boomer and vintage lens enthusiast, and I made an unwritten falsehood when I said there will be no more videos of 50mm f1.4s. Well, this is the Nikkor 50mm 1.4 and one of the AI or AIS configurations, and I took it to the park in the daytime, but I never used it at f1.4 in the low light conditions. So I said, well, how can my series be complete without this one? So what I did was on New Year's Day of 2025, January 1st, I went to Montclair at 6 o'clock in the morning or so, and I shot a bunch of pictures at 1.4 and f2.8. Mostly at 1.4, but quite a number at 2.8 for comparison. Montclair is another one of those towns. It has a wide boulevard called Bloomfield Avenue that has all sorts of commerce along each side of the street. It has a little quaint section off a side road, and that's the loop I did. I went to the quaint section first. I walked up the street, then I went back to Bloomfield Avenue, took some pictures, and went back to my car. Now, I only saw 3 people, and traffic was very light. I was home early, too. So, out of all the lenses I tested, this is the best. I did use this massive collapsible rubber lens hood. On a crop sensor, you could use a lens hood this aggressive on a 50mm. And I guess that helped the best because all the other lens hoods, you've seen them, they were like short, only about that big. And they, I guess, were made for 50mm on full frame cameras. So I went to Montclair, I set the thing at ISO 1000, tried to focus as well I could. Some pictures are 1.4 and 2.8, so you could compare them immediately, the same subject at the same location at the same time. And then I just walked up and down, took, the usual street scenes, snapping away. And of course, there's all different types of lighting on that street: halogen light, neon light, sodium vapor, mercury vapor, fluorescent. So the white balance is whatever you're going to get. It's predominantly yellow, and I reduced yellowish red, orange, I guess. I reduced that a little bit, but not too much. No sharpening. And of course, 1.4 is a little low contrast, and 2.8 is sharper and better. But the 1.4 pictures are totally useful. As even some of the, this had the least amount of blooming and aberrations, it looked like to me. So I give it the win. The Canon was extremely close, but it had some flaring. So, and then the others were, about the same. Pentax, Mamiya Secor, they all seemed to be about the same. They weren't horribly worse, but maybe they had more flare or blooming or something like that. So let's just jump right into the slideshow. And, and of course, as usual, it's on the Z50. So let's go to slideshow. You can decide what you think of this lens. Montclair is a little bit out of the way for me, so I don't go there as often as I like. It's, I gotta go to a highway and then get off a highway and then go to Bloomfield Ave, which is like a main thoroughfare, but it's still like residential, commercial, not all highway. So it's a little bit of a left here and a right there sort of a thing. But when you get there, you're rewarded with lots of interesting shots. It's an artsy-fartsy town, liberal, probably leaning Democratic, be that as it may. It has all these quaint shops that rich people would tend to visit. And I went there on New Year's Day, 2025. Got there at 6 o'clock in the morning. Like I said before, only seeing like 3 people. Traffic was sparse. So I walked down the artsy-fartsy street, and then I went on the main drag, and I just wanted to see who was there and who wasn't there. The bagel joint went out of business. They had a big two big neon signs signifying their bagel shop. But most of the other stores were still there. And of course, my walk wasn't too extensive because it was pretty damn cold. New Year's Day morning at 6 o'clock a.m. So I just went through the usual suspects, and I snapped away the antique stores, the philosophy stores, the ethnic eateries, and some fashion stores, and this any other quaint shops they had around. Now you're looking at these pictures, I hope, but I don't have to explain to you that some are shot at f1.4 and some are f2.8, and you can immediately see the difference between f1.4 and 2.8 because f1.4 on all these lenses is relatively low contrast, but this one had the best low contrast out of all the lenses I tested. And it had the least amount of flare and blooming, so it had that going for it also. Yeah, that's f2.8. That's pretty nice looking. Here's the f1.4. This is their Christmas tree. It was pulsating with these stripes, and there wasn't really one time when it was fully illuminated. And I wasn't shooting at a slow shutter speed. So as usual, you can see extended objects look pretty good, but the point light sources look pretty aberrated. Now this is at f2.8. You can see that was much sharper. And here's even f4. You see a little bit of purple. That might be a reflection, but there was some maybe some flare there. This is Anthropology. They've been there for as long as I can remember. They're some sort of fashion shop, I guess. And here again, you can see here's at f2.8, and then here's that crop at f2.8, which is really decent. Oh, f2.8, but all lenses were good at f2.8. And here's f1.4. It's a little soft and it's a little flat out of the contrast. So what can you say? The French Dad. This is one of the ethnic eateries that are there. He drove up. I seen his van pull up. He was going to work at 6 o'clock in the morning on New Year's Day. I guess he's going to hit up the crowds walking around. So here's f1.4. You see, f1.4 is not consistent. Why is it consistent or not consistent? Is because it's so damn hard to focus it correctly. That's why. The shallow depth of field, even f4x. Here's a long exposure of that Christmas tree. I want to see if I could do something funky with it. But it's so hard to focus these lenses at f1.4, even at 10x live view magnification, especially if the environment is not conducive to holding your hand steady, like it's 22 degrees out. And yeah, but I think oh, and that's another thing. You get, maybe it'll be out of focus, but it won't be motion blur. But at 2.8 or 3.5 or 4, you can get a sharp picture, but you'll get motion blur. So that's a trade-off. And yeah, sometimes you can nail it precisely, but it's so hard to do that. If you have the bright light conditions, use the lens at f2.8, and it'll probably be better than any other lens open at f2.8, because just think you're like 2 stops down, but with a regular f2 lens, you're only 1 stop down. It's just an interesting town for hacking around. It gets crowded though, because it's I guess people got money there and they go to the main street, which is called Bloomfield Ave, and they do their shopping or eating there. And they have a lot of arts and craftsy things there, like music venues and artists and such. So I'm just kidding around, but I went anyway and I had a good time. It was my desolation tour. I pretend I'm in North Korea, where the streets are empty. So here's a blue store, here's a white store with some green in it and some red in it, and then you got the outside lighting. What? And here's another perfect example. This building is yellow, but what is the white balance there? Because the stripes are supposed to be white. So, so I reduced, if it was too much red overcast, I reduced it. And here's a perfect example. This is a blue building. It has some sort of white lights on it. The place next to it on the right looks like it's lit by tungsten or something like that. And then there's this place, which looks like it's lit up with halogen lights, so it looks pretty white. And here's a close-up of that. At f1.4, if you nail the focus, it's possible to get excellent results in the center out of this lens. And it's useful in the dark. All these pictures, I call them night vision pictures. This one was pretty well lit, but I tried to use f2.8 and I got a slight bit of motion blur on that. And here I went back to 1.4 and 160 just prevented the motion blur. And here's a close-up of that at f1.4. Captain Louis, f2.8 down the street. Just enough depth of field, here's the signs, and then you got your buka in the background. And then you don't mind the lights blooming from buka. But here's a street sign at f2.8, really nice. Of course, when you stop down, you get the aperture blade diffraction effects, the starbursts. Yeah, and it's just an interesting town to walk up and down, look through these stores. This tattoo, I think that was there last time, and a store to the left of it was there last time too. This store, I guess those are like urban street fashions, I guess, in North Jersey and rich liberal towns. I just like some of the creative lighting they have on these storefronts that you don't usually see somewhere else. And I noticed that with these older established towns, is they have a lot of quaintness there. But when this town was new and all these buildings are new, it's like, wow, it's like a mini New York City almost. And a Tika grill. Alcazar, I like that their green light clock. Clean green clock light. I like that. Yeah, his tattoo place was lit up like with all get out. And so I was able to use f2.8, and it came out really, really good. This is a store next to it. Yeah, this is a store next to it, a seafood company. I don't know how these stores make business. There's enough people to buy their quaint niche products or services. I don't know. That's one thing about America. There's all sorts of a glittering assortment of variety. If you could imagine anything, you could find it somewhere. And of course, I imagine photo ops, and you can find them anywhere. The Sweet Kitchen. They've been there for as long as I can remember. As long as I can remember. Montclair's a little bit out of the way for me. And I would like to go to other places, but they'd be even more out of the way or longer. But I said, well, I guess one must go further and farther afoot in this quest for, photo ops, as it were. Because you never know what you might run into. This is a used clothing store. Was this the used clothing store? No, I think it was the pictures before this. It was the used clothing store, and some of the clothes had ticks on it like $600. I said, what sort of used clothing is that, right? So some of the pictures came out good, down the street, this and that. It's a nice lens. Of course, it's the most costly of them, and if you want to go for the best, you get the Nikon 1.4. The Canon 1.4 is a very, very close second. And then if the other ones you could get at a bargain, then they're worth it. And remember, they all shoot fine pictures at f8. So I say go for it.